Hello everybody, Euclid back here with you again with my buddies Vin and Joshua. We are joining you today because it's been way too long and got out of a bit of a funk, and we want to check out something that I don't really know how to feel about this new Halo news, because I feel like I've taken so many vacations from Halo unless I'm with you guys. And that's when it's enjoyable, when it's with you guys. But today we're going to take a crack at the A New Dawn Halo Studios Vidoc. And without saying much, I haven't seen really anything on this. Josh, I know you haven't seen all of the video. I know we've seen snippets here and there because the internet's good at spoiling shit. But let's just jump into the video because it's big news for 343 no longer being 343.
Mark. This is Casey Wu, take one. Mark.
I was told that I can just be my authentic self, Chris.
For 6 years, I don't want to be in front of a camera.
There's so much to do and so much fun to be had when you play Halo that I feel like I never run out of things to do.
I love intricate stories that take place across lots of different worlds, have lots of different meaningful characters.
What made Halo successful at the beginning? What is the legacy of Halo, and what's the soul that we want to bring forward, and what's the craft of making Halo games, and how do we set our studio up best to go deliver on that?
We knew we had to make a change in order to take us into the future.
When I first heard about Halo moving to Unreal Engine, my first thought was, this is going to be a really hard secret to keep.
I think fans are going to be
It's
excited about
been
the future
rumored
of
for
Halo
so long.
because of the possibilities that are afforded us by using Unreal.
Before, we really had to split our focus in thinking about building an engine, supporting it, being really kind of a tech company and a studio at the same time. Since we've made the change to shift to UE, we can bring Halo forward in ways that people have never seen before while still being true to what Halo is.
The Foundry project was an effort to show ourselves how far we can push things using Unreal 5.
New studio art director, Chris, came to me and said, hey, I have this crazy idea.
He said, hey, there's this thing called Project Foundry that I want to do. Let's make it happen.
Foundry specifically is based around the same concept of the Foundry in Halo lore. It's the place where Halo rings are born. It's not a game, it's a research project for our studio so we can prepare ourselves for the next steps of making Halo games.
That's nice.
Sorry for bursting eardrums. Oh my god.
The original Halo franchise
That's pretty
was
sick.
a graphic showcase. It was best in class. That's what Halo was when it first was released, and that's what Halo needs to be again.
I agree with that. Ooh, that's gorgeous. Oh, that's
fire.
So
oh my
once Project
God.
Foundry had been approved, we took the entire creative team and we ideated on 3 locations, something old, something new, and something really alien.
We had the Pacific Northwest, which is sort of traditional Halo biome.
We were trying to shove as much foliage in there as humanly possible to make it really feel like you're on a hike in the, Cascades.
The Coldlands, which was the second biome that we took on, it was more of a technical showcase where we could play with shaders, we could play with deformable landscapes and terrains. Unreal affords us more opportunity than we've ever had in the past.
On the surface, it might just look all like snow, but how many layers of things combine to really give that winter look?
And then our third biome was the Blightlands, which is any land that's been completely taken over by the flood.
I wanted to give our team the opportunity to really express an alien world, a really alien world, taking something way further than they may have actually done in previous Halo games.
And what's impressed me about watching the Halo team work in Unreal is how beautiful everything looks, how incredible the environments look.
Oh yeah.
I don't think we've seen anything quite like it in Unreal Engine before.
Feels
Fortunately,
like
we have
level
a studio
Halo
that's
on
really passionate
steroids.
about Halo, about the look
Yeah.
and feel.
It's gorgeous.
And, I think there's a lot of hunger to really collaborate, to move forward together.
Foundry was an initiative that touched on every part of the creative process, everything from concept art, VFX, characters, vehicles, and weapons to make the future games of Halo.
Creating an asset, taking this design, now we can really dig into material foundations. What is it actually made of? How is it physically accurate to the world? Now we get to take all the wonderful legacy assets that we have, bring them to life, and bring them to today's standards.
We are really excited to be not just working on multiple projects, but also expanding our studio.
As a lifelong Halo player, I think the game's only going to get better when we get those new, unique perspectives and people bring in their expertise and passion for the Halo franchise.
We are looking for new talent as the projects that we're working on kind of get further and further into their development cycles.
And it is great to be part of a team that's growing because you can kind of see that force multiplied as people come in and take on challenges and you can do more.
Imagine a place where you have the commitment that this is what we want to do, Halo games, and create those experiences. And you can express your talent, your creativity, and your professional ambitions in that place.
We're looking for designers,
Love
we're
the
looking
shirt.
for artists, we're looking for engineers.
Pretty cool
It feels like
shirt.
a new
Yeah.
beginning for the studio in a lot of ways, and I think that's pretty rare.
And I think we arrived now at a point where you see the beginnings of people to start to believe in the process.
There's so much momentum that we have right now and focus and clarity on not just what we're building, but why we're building and kind of this next phase of Halo.
The worlds that we're building, the stories that we're going after.
The potential at Halo right now is huge.
Halo Infinite was the last remnants of how we made Halo games in the past. That was our recipe. And what we are doing right now, we're changing that recipe.
So it's just in the
I
name.
do not like that logo, dog. I'm gonna be a hater about it. So bad. I do not like it.
Okay, so first of all, I do appreciate feeling like I'm going back to Combat Evolved's Halo, but in
Yeah.
Unreal 5, right? Like, we can talk about the obvious advantages of that, and I do have a little bit of a story I'll say in a second to relate to Unreal and how it can really elevate a game. Even a game that is struggling, I would argue, can be really elevated with Unreal Engine, especially in its newest rendition. But this was a thing that you guys suggested recently we check out. So I don't have an issue with the name as far as it goes. I mean, we keep dancing around, oh, let's make the name of the studio a topic, but rebranding, I think that's a good move. I do.
Yeah, I agree.
It's
I think that a
sad.
rebrand was necessary for sure.
Yeah, it's sad to see it, but guys, we've been around for a minute. You know, we've been through so many titles and have played all of them since the beginning. And you know, I've it's not that I've given up on it. I heard some things in the video that I wasn't thrilled to hear, though. We want to bring in new talent with new ideas, and I'm like, change the recipe. I don't think necessarily, and this isn't me being a Bungie boomer, I don't think that changing the recipe necessarily is what needed to happen. I just think that the biggest issue that Bungie and 343 Games both had was that they did not connect enough. I feel like the biggest problem that both the Bungie and 343 era games had was that they tried way too hard to be totally different from their previous title. Both eras. I really feel that way. I feel like it didn't need to be totally consistent. Some change was necessary. But I also feel like Bungie and 343 both did certain things really well. You could look at 343's humanization of Chief. I actually really liked how they did that, and I appreciated that. But as far as like the rebranding goes, it was necessary. I agree with Vin. I'm not a big fan of how that looks, but it's a little weird. I don't know why the H is. There has to be a reasoning behind the shape. I know that the O is supposed to be reminiscent of the O with the boop, but I mean, honestly,
I don't think there's no way. That's got to be only the studio logo. There's no way it is ever making its way onto a game.
It probably is. Yeah. I don't see them changing. Because why would you want a logo for the studio that looks different to the logo from the game, right? Yeah. I feel like they'll probably just keep the logo they have, maybe make a couple tweaks to it to simplify it a little bit.
Yeah.
It's a minor thing. I would love if they went back to the old logo, personally. I know that they don't have a ton of differences, but that old logo, like that chunky, like, kind of, it's got like a mesh like material to it every time you see it when Bungie like did the cover art for the various Halo games, and like I love that old logo, and I kind of wish that they would go back to that one, but it's not. That is the least of the series' problems, in my opinion. But I wouldn't mind it.
Yeah. So I want to throw a question on the end of what you just said, Vince. So when you say like the old logo, do you mean Combat Evolved? More so.
Combat Evolved 3 had a Halo logo, and then Reach has its own, I think, and then the 343 games all have the same one, right? So, yeah. So, I agree with you. For what it's worth, when they talk about changing the recipe, if by changing the recipe they mean changing how they're making games over there, and like not spending 9 months on a project that doesn't end up happening, then I think that recipe definitely needed to be changed, and I'm glad to hear it. If they mean, but there's a coin flip side to that, which is we are starting fresh again, and we started fresh with Halo 4, we started fresh with Halo 5, we started fresh with Halo Infinite. This will be the 4th time that Halo Studios pulls up and is like, we're changing the formula, and it's like, I want some consistency. I hope this time when you change the formula, you don't then immediately change it again. Just at this point, stick with something. So I do, while changes needed to be made, I'm completely in agreement with you. 343's entire trilogy feels so disjointed that it's like there's almost a pang of like, we're doing this again. And even though they're necessary changes, I'm like, we've been around the block already. All three of us have experienced what 343's tenure with the franchise, which at this point is longer than when Bungie had it.
Yeah.
It's been like, and it's constant restarts. So,
new hair, new me.
Off of what he said, my biggest problem with it, if it's a problem, is that I get extreme Slip Space Engine teaser energy.
Yeah.
And I say that knowing that we don't know what the future holds. But we were promised a lot, and again, I know that the Slip Space Engine teaser, that wasn't really meant, it was meant for fans, it was meant for investors, really. Like, at its core, it was meant to be, this is the future of Halo, give us money.
Give me money.
If we're being blunt about it, the Slip Space Engine trailer was a lie. It was a flat-out lie about what Halo Infinite was going to be.
We didn't get any of that shit.
We didn't get any of it.
No.
So, now, like, did they intend to lie to us? I don't think so, but, like, they really under-delivered.
Yeah, they overpromised big time.
Yeah. So this has a lot less in it than that did. The reason that I'm not like jumping up and down, like I'm a huge CE fan. It's my favorite Halo game. I prefer the art direction in CE to every other Halo game, including other Bungie titles. I'm not jumping up and down for this just because it references CE. It's an environment showcase video, really.
Right.
We've seen so many of those with Unreal Engine, especially if you are like at all adjacent to the art world. You see environment art posted by artists all the time.
Yeah.
And it all looks amazing. Unreal Engine 5 looks amazing. It's very, like, when you have a talented team behind the work, it's hard to make something that looks bad. But sometimes it can look samey. And it's very, like, it's just a bunch of photorealistic environments. They look good, yes, but that doesn't tell me much, frankly.
Yeah.
Any talented game studio can make that. The only thing that screams Halo are some of the character assets, and they do like the whole thing with something old, something new, and what was the other one?
Something alien.
Something alien. I laugh at that a little bit. Something old. You picked the Pacific Northwest, which is what you just did in Infinite.
Right.
There's so many other things that are Bungie
After
Halo
talking about
or
leaving
old
behind
Halo.
the old recipe.
Right.
Yeah.
You just did that, and that was the whole game.
Yeah.
That was the entire Halo environment. Was that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels kind of key jingly at a certain point. Like, I love Combat Evolved. I think it's a great game, and I love the first mission on the
Teasing you
Halo
with that
ring in
treat.
Combat Evolved.
Yeah.
But
That's how they got us with
I'm
Infinite.
sick and tired of it. Like, I can't. I don't. To me, right, when I think of what made those Bungie games great, I don't think, oh, they were great because you walk out onto a grassy field and there's a Forerunner Spire there. I think of those big bombastic moments in Combat Evolved 2 and 3 that are emotionally effective because you're experiencing something new and something awe-inspiring. Like, where are these moments where scarabs are dropping in? You know, where are moments like in Halo 2 where you're fighting through the Mombasa streets? Like, I want new things, and I want old things that excite me, but I don't want to just keep playing around in grassy green pastures with a Forerunner tower near me and fighting elites. That's not... You can't just do it over and over and over again and expect for people to feel the same way that they did when they played Combat Evolved. Like, I know a lot of people don't like what 343 has done with the franchise, and I'm glad Infinite wanted to make a return to that more simplistic formula that Combat Evolved had.
Right.
But at least 4 and 5, to their credit, try to do different things and try to have big moments that show you things that you haven't experienced before. That's why the Blightlands in this kind of excites me, is because, like, that's the one thing that does feel, oh, this is different. We've never seen this. We've never had a boots on the ground view of what a whole Forerunner area looks like when it's just covered in, like, infected pus and just
Closest
gross
thing
stuff,
was High
you know?
Charity when we fought through it, and when we went back to it in 3. That still wasn't that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So-
You mentioned the scale.
I also...
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
I
go
was just
for
going
it.
to say, as a CE fan, if I want to be really nitpicky, okay?
You do want to be nitpicky.
Which is I do. I
do it.
I think sometimes they miss the point, or like when they're translating it, they're like looking at real photos of the Pacific Northwest, and that's like, yes, the Bungie did that too, but they did take it their own direction. Like, open up CE, and like the color palette, I think, is actually really important. In this, the grass is very, it's green, but it's very yellow green. There's yellow flowers, but I'm talking about the grass. It's very yellow green. Even the pine trees are yellow green.
Yeah.
If you're evoking CE, there's not a lot of yellow green in that grass.
Yeah.
It's very, very evergreen, and there's a lot of blue as well. I think in that mission, blues and purples and green, but not yellow green. I think they really need to go look at the color palettes of CE, and they need to translate that more. it's not just the lighting, it's also just the hue of the textures and the assets, honestly.
Yeah.
Agreed, yeah. People blame that on the engine too, and it's like, no, it's a boring implementation of assets and design layouts that you can improve on. I mean, if you look at the Gears E-Day trailer, like that screams Gears of War because of its aesthetic. You're not watching that and going, this looks like a stock Unreal Engine environment. You're looking at that and going, this is a hand-authored piece of a universe that I care about. And I kind of want Halo to have that treatment too. So, yeah.
Dude, the Gears of War E-Day, I am not a quarter of the Gears fan that you are, and that trailer made me emotional. It got under my skin. I knew that was Gary Jules' Mad World playing. Like, I just fucking knew it. And then to see the character so young, and I was like, this is really, really respectful to these games. This is like really, it feels like a love letter. Like, you know, we're still here. And we're still, but then I look at this, like what I've got on screen, I'm sure you guys can see where I've paused it. It's not that I have a problem with what's been chosen for this showcase, and I know that they say it's not necessarily for a game, but more of their research and their study, and that's great that that's what they are admitting they need to do. But I care about these little things. Like, Josh, you people don't think about things like the grass and how it's represented and how, you know, Bungie would take their own spin and direction on things. So would 343. But I look at this and I'm like, can we stop taking things that are super signature in Halo? Because now, you know, this exact pose is going to be redone 1,000 fucking times.
It's already been remade. Artists have already
Jesus Christ,
done several
so
renditions of it.
I'm just gonna go off the rail for a second here. That's fucking boring. This image is not boring. It's cool. I mean, it's a little stupid that Sangheili miners are wielding energy swords, because that goes totally fucking against what the Covenant do, but whatever the fuck. I guess books don't matter, neither do lore, because we have to take a niche approach and everything, because they're elites and they're not Sangheili, so go fuck yourself and your niche beliefs in the Halo lore, because I read the books, bitch. I've been around since before you were born. As far as these games are concerned, and how they deal with it, this shit's cool. The armor is gorgeous. But let's talk about Infinite for a second in comparison to this, just for a split second, and then we'll get back to this. Infinite's biggest problem is that all the interesting shit that happened in the world, not just the setting being kind of bland and trying too hard to go back, was that I think it was actually a bad move to do a damaged part of the Halo ring and just have a bunch of spires that were being created and terraformed and turned. That was a bad move. It was cool and you could have segments of that, but where the flying fuck was the stuff from the trailer? Where was the wildlife? Where was the representation? Where were the puzzles? Where were the warthog and pelican crashes that were underwater that it felt like we were going to be able to look at or explore? Where were the Sentinel enforcers? Where were these things that were going to take me both to 343 and Bungie era and make them something beautiful together? Where was that? It didn't exist.
Where were the different biomes?
Yeah, what the fuck? There was one.
Yeah.
There was one, and it became a different biome if you were in, and there was no significance to the giant battlefields you would find. And what was it? There's a book. Yeah. There's a novel out that I haven't read yet, but I plan to. It's about the battle of the UNSC remnants that escaped the Infinite. And I'm like, can we not be in that?
Yeah.
Why is it so fucking hard to have like 60 NPCs on screen like they were during the Scarab drop that Vin referenced? Where's the scope and the scale? You make this huge level and I'm alone in it. I'm so fucking alone.
Yeah. I think it was the right decision that the game starts out small scale. I think the problem is that it got so, like, cut around in development. Like, I like that you start off alone and it's just you and the pilot. I think the beginning of Infinite is probably...
Yes.
Can I say it's the only good part? Am I allowed to say that without people? Because I think the first hour is great. And then from there, it just, like, sinks into the most, like, boring open world. People compare it to Ubisoft and have not played a Far Cry game recently because...
No, I actually had fun playing Far Cry 5.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You could also play Far Cry 5 co-op at launch. That's besides the point. It's such a boring and bland world. There's nothing to do in it. The story is not that particularly engaging or needle moving. I like Escharum, but I don't.
My
really
favorite
think
part
that
his
this-
character was great. I really did like him as well.
My favorite parts of Infinite are never gameplay. It's always cinematics, like character moments, basically, which I think is sad.
A lot of them were well done, but it's like the fact that they're kind of alone on these isles and they're surrounded by oceans of just gray. That's sad. That made, yeah, it did. I agree with Vin's take on that too. I think that the beginning and at least the segments with Eshram through the game and in the end, but like I started to lose after what's the torture expert's name? What's his name?
Jaga? Oh, is it Chaklock?
Chaklock.
That I'm thinking of?
After
Yeah.
Chaklock, so Jaga, Chaklock, and Eshram. What's that? And then the Jiralhana's name, is it Basius? What's his name? He's like a stereotypical brute. He's big.
Is it? Yeah, it's Bassus, and I think there's also Hyperius and Tovarus or something like that.
But like a lot of them didn't have the weight or the gravity behind them, and they just were all scattered around the map randomly at these random camps, and there was no. They all should have been like micro missions, and there should have been cinematics, and there should have been explanation, and there should have been music, and there should have been build up, but there was none of that romanticism behind Halo's story. I never felt emotionally connected to shit. The only time that I felt kind of emotional is when that Spartan died that Chief found at Chaklock's tower. That was pretty emotional.
That was a good moment.
Yeah, I was like, oh my god. And then as I continue to play, I'm like, I just feel like I'm trying to clear the map like I'm playing Elder Scrolls Morrowind, only I'm kind of bored. So, it sucked because I was so excited for it. We all were.
I mean, people can have their criticisms for 5. I think that 5 is a very bad story. But the fact that they pull up an Infinite and you have a mini-boss that has Locke's helmet on his shoulder and the game just doesn't address it. What the fuck?
Right.
Like, nothing?
Didn't we get it confirmed finally, but like this year, that it is in fact Locke's helmet?
Yeah, I don't think they've even confirmed yet, though, if he's dead or if...
They haven't confirmed that, but they confirmed it's his helmet.
Definitely, yeah. Because he's wearing
the block
chest piece, too.
Which is super, super dumb.
Yeah, like, I don't know. You can't do things like that and not explain. It was a rush project where they wanted to fill this world with shit, and they didn't have the time to, and they were pushed to release it. Hands down. But you want to make a game that ambitious, you're going to need more time. I mean, and I'm willing to wait longer for projects because they're more demanding. You can't still squeeze out an accidental good game like Halo 2 in a few years anymore. You can't.
Yeah.
And that's okay. So maybe we stop doing it because AAA is not what it used to be. And this is why people are kind of just, they're staying away from it. And this is why I play a lot of old games, or why I have my niche titles that I really love. Like Metro Exodus had a lot of build up, and it didn't disappoint me. And the previous games are very limited. It was growth. It's kind of like when The Witcher 2 went to The Witcher 3. It was recognizable, but it was such good growth. You know, they really flexed their engine and flexed their developer muscles and what they could create. And Infinite had that, and it had the ability to make you emotionally connected, but man, so much of the world in Infinite was empty, especially towards the end when you're making your way towards the final towers and there's that big trench run. Stuff was missing. There was a lot of stuff they wanted to put in and didn't get to. And I mean, I like Vidocs. I love behind the scenes. I miss when they shared that in like collector's editions. Like we saw, you know, at the beginning of the video, there was that little snippet right there. Yeah, right there. And I have that. I have that little Halo 2. I have a couple of them because I'm a hoarder. But because one's not in great shape and I found another one. But I watched that documentary so many times because there was some real spirit behind it. There was music from the time. There was talk about how they struggled, and they struggled to make that game. They had a rough time with Halo 3 as well, and Halo 1 was an accidental success, though it was well made. You know, it wasn't planned that it would save Xbox. I'm just saying that I don't blindly worship Bungie titles, but you can't argue with, like you said, Vin, earlier, that there was heavier consistency to a degree, and just the constant refreshes to the titles. we don't need to start over. We don't need to start over. New ideas added in are great, but none of these, a lot of them don't even feel like they're in the same universe. And with stuff not being addressed, like Locke's helmet, why? And at Halo 5's ending, despite how rough the story was, I did kind of like parts of how Halo 5 ended, because I was like, oh man, shit's gonna be locked and loaded, because everybody's coming together, and then we just fucking skipped it.
Well, it sets up things that are interesting, and it's kind of a bummer that to have a series reset, we needed to completely ignore any of that. Like, there's concept art of Promethean soldiers fighting brutes, and I'm like, there's a new idea that is interesting.
Right.
And we don't get that because we have to stop and do Combat Evolved again. And now we're stopping and doing Combat Evolved again. I mean, it's not a joke to say we're probably getting Combat Evolved Anniversary.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll be bigger. I'm sure being a remake that it'll probably have some more beef to it, you know, and they'll do more things, and they'll probably get it right this time for the most part. I'm sure Josh would disagree with the framing of getting it right.
Well, it depends.
Again.
It depends.
But
if the art director actually worked on the Gears 1 remaster, then maybe we will get...
And he did a good job with that.
Yeah.
So I do actually feel like... Because, a lot of people are pointing out that this tech demo, they're using mostly Infinite stuff.
Yeah.
I don't think the Infinite stuff that they're showing looks bad. I think it looks like they had to put together a tech demo, and I probably don't... I would err on the side they shouldn't have released this, but that's just me.
Can we go into some of that about the tech demo?
Yeah.
So there's a few, I don't expect for a tech demo them to, make brand new character assets, okay? That's a little ridiculous.
Yeah.
The Mark V armor is the Infinite model, but it is different. It's higher poly. It doesn't have as much baked down into its textures. A lot of the details are physical, not just in the normal map. They've made some very slight proportion changes to more resemble Eddie Smith's 2003 Halo movie concept armor. They changed his pouches to match those as well. They took off the belt. That concept had pouches on his side. The elites are just Infinite elites. There's not there's too much. People are focusing too much on the characters, I think.
Yeah.
It's cool that they put the Mark V front and center. I think that shows that they want to honor the legacy of Halo with stuff that they're doing moving forward.
Yeah, I think they definitely want to respect it.
Yeah.
But they keep
they're
jumping
focusing. Yeah, true.
in the fucking dark.
Fans are
and being
focusing
like,
too much on that, though.
Fate will guide us. And it's like,
yeah.
Guys, come on. First of all, have a cohesive story that feels full.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not all on them. We know people are rushing people to do stuff. It needs to be done. And those decisions are being made by people that don't even fucking play games, which is the first problem. But that's a whole nother... We've talked about that. It's a dead horse with a broken ribcage at this point. There it goes. Back into the Blightlands again.
Can you do me a favor?
Yeah.
Go back to the concept art of the very first concept art they did of Halo, the Halo level.
I think it was concept art.
I think it's at 2 minutes and 38 seconds or something like that. It's when they did painting, right?
Yeah, the painting.
Yep.
Yeah. So, how I was criticizing the lighting in the actual demo? Whoever did the concept actually understood what the assignment. The concept looks closer. Look at the colors.
Yeah.
The sky. There's purple. The greens.
Yes.
This looks like CE, and the translation to the the actual engine product does
It's
not
lost
match
it.
as well.
Yeah, there's too much focus on sharpness, and then all of a sudden, the color palette that reminds you of CE is gone, and we're more focused on, like, the details are beautiful, but where is that alien wonder? That's what I'll blindly call it.
Yeah.
Like, they were drawings in the background, paintings in the background, and yet they added to the majesty and the mystery and the unknown wonder that made Combat Evolved as magical as it is even today. I would argue.
Which I think is the issue, is that they're chasing that feeling that players got in Combat Evolved when they first stepped on the ring, and it was alien to them. But they're chasing it by doing the same thing that players are already familiar and comfortable with. You're never going to have that feeling happen again unless you actually put players in new alien spaces.
Yeah.
You know? You're never going to have another Combat Evolved if all you keep doing is Combat Evolved.
Right.
And doing it poorly. I should clarify that.
I think there's room for people who haven't played Halo before to experience it this way, and experience that feeling, but you have to do it. You have to actually faithfully adapt it. I wouldn't be surprised if the guy or girl who did the concept that we just saw literally had a screenshot of CE open and was possibly even sampling colors from it.
Oh yeah.
Oh man.
But yeah, the people that they did a great job with the visual fidelity. You can't lie about that. But it just does not match CE if you want to be nitpicky.
Well, you want my controversial opinion on Slipspace, is that I don't think Slipspace looks all that great most of the time. I think it's serviceable. I think it looks, for a modern game, Infinite looks very pretty at certain points. But I think the aliasing, and once you get up close to most things, like, it doesn't... You'll play a game like God of War, and it'll blow you away that they're able to, like, accomplish this, because it has not only a very strong graphical presentation, but it's going for a certain art style and a certain art direction that's beautiful. Infinite gets that sometimes, but a lot of the time you're just like, it's fine, it's not blowing you away. This looks better by a large margin. I think that if you're going for graphical fidelity, UE5 is giving them a lot more of that.
The problem, I'm glad they've switched to Unreal for that one thing. They are now cutting edge. The problem with 343 was every time they advanced the engine, they were always a couple of years behind.
Yes.
Now,
that is true.
Graphics should not be the selling point of a game. That is literally the problem the game industry has right now, is that graphics are always the selling point, and now games take 5 to 7 years to make. But I'm glad that they're on Unreal Engine for that exact reason.
Yeah.
Because I also agree that Subspace doesn't look that great a lot of the time. Like, you have to be downsampling that from 8K down to 4K or even lower to get crisp, like, to get a crisp and clear image.
And most, more than 90, I mean, it's in the high 90% of people aren't doing that. They're doing what I'm doing, which is playing on something that's good enough because it's feasible for their lifestyle. I mean, none of us have the most cutting edge of the cutting edge, and, like, I'm more focused on the streams that I do being, like, easy to see and clear. But I'm not going to be streaming something at the max while streaming at the max. Like, it's not feasible. Who am I? You know, and this is mostly to play games and enjoy them. So yeah, graphics should never be a selling point. But I agree, then moving to Unreal is,
You know what would have got me jumping up and down?
What's that?
Is if they moved to Unreal, but they also, like, dumbed the art style down. That would have been dope. Like, go back to Halo's cartoony roots. You don't have to lower the fidelity of anything.
No.
But you can dumb the art style down, for lack of a better description. I'm sure there are better descriptions, but dumb it down and make something more simplified. That would, like, because there's a lot of people that don't like the fact that everything is photorealistic now. I can see where people are coming from. I don't usually care that much personally, I do see how it affects development and makes things take so long.
Yeah.
But in Halo's case, because it's one of the only franchises that I'm super passionate about, I wouldn't actually mind them just going simpler. You know, it doesn't have to be photorealistic.
They'd be rewarded
and in some
for
cases, yeah. And in some cases, photorealism might actually hinder Halo, at least for games. I make, like, when I make artwork, I tend to go photorealistic personally. So maybe I'm a hypocrite for saying that, but I think there also is a difference between
I was going to bring that up.
And someone's artwork, you know.
Without calling you a hypocrite. Well, we've all talked about it. I know that the three of us have especially talked about it, where this is kind of a niche example, but for example, when I did do my own thumbnails for little niche videos for Stalker and other stuff, I'd be like, dude, I'm spending too much time on these thumbnails. I'm just going to start making them simpler. And I remember you guys, I got my opinions and you guys were like, yeah, why not? And I focused so much less on that shit that didn't matter. The thumbnail matters, but what really matters is the video and getting it out when it's relevant. And it was like, that is actually a very condensed version, a very irrelevant condensed version of this game development. Stop focusing on the, wow, that rock looks so fucking wet. Instead, I'm sorry, Vin. Instead, his face. But instead, you're right. Focus less on, we're going back. We are so back. I can't tell you how many thumbnails I've seen on my YouTube timeline that says, Halo is so back. Shut the fuck up. Stop saying
You literally
that.
do not know that, yeah.
Oh my god, they're lying to themselves. They don't even like
I'm not
doing
going to
it.
be super pessimistic about it. I'm also not going to sit here and go, yo, Halo's back. It's like they didn't show you anything. We don't know if Halo's back. Maybe. Yeah.
You got to be realistic and based on your experiences and what we have, what we've experienced. And what we've experienced is, fragments of joy, but for the most part, let down. And over the years, it's kind of gotten worse. And it's there are times where it surprised you and they did one thing niche very right. But yeah, it's undeniably beautiful. But I didn't come here. I mean, they're showing it off as if they would be showing off a demo for Flight Simulator maxed out on a supercomputer. When that's gorgeous. I like the different biome that we didn't get, but look at that. Look at this glacial and the 400 structures. I don't mind seeing that in the distance. I don't mind that, but you guys kind of nailed it on the head. We're focusing on it being too flashy, and there's just not enough time and not enough resources, and there's too much development related exhaustion left. There's nothing left for them to fill the story with emotion and like I said, and when I say the romanticism of the story, I just mean the way that you can replay a Halo game and you're like, man, that shit used to make me cry. That stuff used to make me pretty emotional when I played through it, and I felt really connected to the game. And I still do when I play it. There's rose-tinted glasses for sure, but that's not all it is. It's not. The refresh has got to stop. Ben put that very well.
Yeah.
We can't just keep recycling and hoping something will eventually stick to the wall. You know what's wrong with Halo Infinite is it's empty, and we didn't get what we thought we were going to get. It was very disappointing. I felt like if the rest of the game, like Vince said, was the beginning, and it continued to go, because loved that character being with Chief. I liked the relationship, but then it just at one point that stopped happening and he was just a voice in the background, and I'm like, this sucks, man. Where the fuck did that go? I would have waited way more. I would have waited years more for it to be done. It wasn't done.
I know. I would literally I would have preferred them delaying the game and giving us something complete. I will say, if anyone from Halo Studios is watching this that is in charge or has any kind of say or input on the art direction for future Halo stuff, art direction matters more than realism, I think. But especially if you happen to be working on the potential Halo CE remake, I implore you to reference everything Bungie pulled from. Okay? Aliens, Gundam, anime of any kind that they referenced. I don't care. That needs to be your Bible for the CE remake. Also, Spartans need to be larger than life again and not just walking tanks. This is a very personal opinion that I know Ben, and I know you probably agree with Euclid. But the painted tank metal look on Spartans needs to go, and they need to get their metallic sheen back. Okay, because Spartans were cooler when they looked human, cyborg, and alien all at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay. That needs to come back. And the Mark V, like Chief in his Mark V will never look right unless he has that metallic sheen. So much commentary again about it looks so plastic, it looks like a toy, blah blah blah. I don't think the materials are amazing. I think that the up close shots, the materials look like they have a lot of detail in them. The lighting in that wide shot that everyone is complaining about kind of washes out any detail that those materials have. You can't see any macro detail.
It defeats the purpose.
If it was a metallic, sheen on there, that would have helped a lot. You probably would have seen a lot less people complaining about the way he looked in that regard. I'd really like to see them quit doing that, though. Like, I don't think it's toxic to say that, like, just stop doing painted metal.
It's just we did this already with Infinite Chief, and we went through the whole process of they showed him off, and people thought he looked like plastic, and then a year later they presented him again, and all they did was upped the damage values on him and upped the dirt values and made his edge wear more prominent.
The shade of green's the same, too. Yeah.
Like, on the flip side, I hope that maybe some of the feedback they incorporated into the CE remake and have him potentially build up Grime and Guck as the campaign goes on. That's one way you can iterate on doing a Combat Evolved remake that Anniversary could never have done. Have him build up, like have him flood biomass and stuff, and just like gunk and blood and shit get stuck to his armor, and slowly start to kind of take away that pristine green metal look that Chief should have at the start of the game. You know, you can do some complex and interesting material things with it that still look grimy and lived in without taking away what makes Spartan armor look iconic, which is that otherworldly metal look that it has.
Right.
Yeah,
no, like you said, larger than life, and that would be a great new thing, like they said, to add to Halo, because that hasn't been done. What you just said. I mean,
dynamic.
Correct. Yeah, like
dynamic
character being
damage
affected
over time.
And it doesn't have to be something that's so intensive that they spend like years on it. That can be something that they have specialists specifically dedicate themselves to. I at least know that much about game development, but I think they're so worried about now it's like modernizing and catching up. And don't get me wrong, I know that Halo's in a really rough place right now. There's a lot of people whose livelihood is based on these games doing well, and I'm not just talking about the developers, and that sucks too. But especially for the developers and these new people that are coming in and out of the whatever company is in charge of keeping the legacy of this story alive. But sometimes you keep the legacy alive by adding to it and not refreshing it, by something still being there. I mean, that's where Halo's Majesty came from, you know, like, what's a good example? And it can be something as simple as an Energy Sword's model changing, but a lore reason explaining it. So they're still connected and they still exist. Spartans being larger than life, I could compare it to another series I really like, which is Warhammer. I will not go into that, but the Space Marines in Warhammer, regardless of what chapter any Warhammer nuts watching this would like, they are larger than life. They call them angels in Warhammer because they are engineered perfectly for war, and Spartans are the Halo universe's equivalent of that. I mean, their armor, if I'm not mistaken, weighs half a ton, right? So their armor is over 1,000 pounds. I could be wrong, but I know their armor is heavy. Like the way that their neural interface works is they think their actions become to their suits. They are these super expensive, super rare, and especially Master Chief's, the Spartan 2 generation, was very rare that they survived. So the trade-off was almost not worth it. And just how the story occurred, like the Spartans weren't even originally made to fight aliens. Like, it all mattered and it all was linked, and the Spartans were important. And when you would show up, you see that? A Spartan? We're gonna be okay. Reference that from Halo 3. Or reference NPCs calling out to you, and it's not scripted. They just say things at random, but they'll see you, they notice you, and they say something because of how fucking rare it is to see a Spartan in the Human Covenant War. And now it's not even referenced. Spartans are dying left and right because there's so many new Spartans. Spartans have become expendable. They're no longer these admirable, now noble team felt pretty large, in my opinion. As far as characters are concerned, they were important and they grew on me. But no, they have lost their status as mythical characters almost in the Halo universe. I agree.
Yeah, and to go off of what Euclid said, but also kind of like go off of what you said, Josh. People at Halo Studios, Chris Lee, if you're listening. Oh wait, no, hold on. Franco Con. Wait, no. Bonnie Rock. Whoever is still working at Halo Studios, you have a huge universe of so many interesting things in it. You don't need to just focus on Chief. Like Euclid talking about Marines saying that. I wish any of those amazing moments with Marines that happen in Infinite, because they're really funny, I wish like you had to experience any of them, because they're all like things that you just might completely miss since no Marines show up in the campaign other than the ones that you go save.
Yeah.
Like you can play that whole game and not speak to a single Marine, and they're not in the story at all.
Right.
And you have all these great characters that Chief knows that are alive by this point, and none of them show up. Where's Lasky? I don't particularly think Palmer's that great. Like, she's there. Where'd she go?
I don't want to exaggerate, but the earlier titles felt like Chief had more of a rapport with the Marines than Infinite does. Like, there's like nothing there.
Yeah.
It's really boring as far as Marines go.
Hey, let's talk about Del Rio. He didn't respect Chief, but everybody else did. His rapport was still intact at that point. He was considered obsolete and old at that point, but I mean, I don't feel like that's a horrible example. Even though it's not from one of my favorite titles, it's still relevant. I like that direction that they went in to kind of show that some people don't care, because some people don't revere intelligence or nobility. They're belittled by it, and they showed that in the story. And I like that because it's like, we all get envious, but there is a good envy. Like, man, I wish I was more like them. But you don't have to hate them for it, you know what I mean? Del Rio hated Chief for it because he could just show up and Del Rio doesn't matter anymore because of how much he's done for humanity. And the story never says, oh, it's because he's a badass and he's Doom guy. When in the lore, canonical reasons, it's because he was lucky and probability favored him, right?
Yeah.
That was a big part of it. But it made you love him more because it made him more believable despite the insane sci-fi setting. So, and it was just, it felt more grounded. I hate using that word because the boots on the ground thing gets worn out. But yeah, no, I feel like by pushing the whole Spartans get ready, Spartans do this, we got another drop for you Spartans out there, and Spartans don't feel special anymore because everyone's a Spartan.
Yeah.
They need to stop doing that.
I think the only way that this rebrand is going to be successful is if they actually do spin-offs. Like, otherwise, this is just... I don't disagree with what you said at the very beginning of all of this, Euclid, that this is a good change. But I also think that if they don't do spin-offs, that this is just a Band-Aid. Because all it does, all it does is distract people who only had a few problems. That this is not 343 anymore. Anyone who is very, very polarized, the name change isn't going to matter at all. To them, it's all the same people still, right?
Right.
So, to me, the only way this succeeds is if, for one, you step away from Chief-centric games, unless it's the CE remake. Because I personally want to see what they do with that. Because I either want to see it be amazing or be a dumpster fire, either one. But they need to do spin-offs.
Yeah.
And they need to be non-Spartan spin-offs.
They've needed to do spin-offs the entire time that they've had the license. I don't know how, with 343 monetizing merchandise as much as they do, that we've gotten one Halo spin-off that people can play on their Xbox, and that was Halo Wars 2. And that they're incredible for doing that. But they did Halo Wars 2. It did okay, like the first one, and then they just dropped it.
Right.
No Halo Wars 3.
Well, first of all, it'd be a great return for not only old fans, but I think it would be really interesting for new fans, is we also did a spin-off from the perspective of the Swords of San Helios. And maybe you could switch stories. You could go between them and the Covenant Remnant faction that was led by my boy Julim Dama. Killing him off on camera was a fucking mistake, and that was another issue I had, is main plotline stories and people just kind of getting eradicated. It could have been done so much better. That's an old gripe. I'm sorry to bring that up, but the books really they flesh him out, and they can at least hint how great these characters are and how complicated they are in the games. But instead, they use them as a set piece for the skydiving action, impossible 360 no scope opening cutscene, whatever. So I just, I try not to be hateful in the take. I know that there are people that did like Infinite, and you were allowed to want more. That's what I want to tell those people. Yeah. You were so allowed to want more. You are allowed to want more, and it's not toxic to critique developers. We're doing this because we want them to succeed. We want Halo to be carried properly as a mantelpiece. We're not saying we could do it better. We're just nerds that love the game. These guys are VFX artists, and I'm a guy that talks and records videos. But the developers, we know they're talented, but they're shoving so much talent in this direction, and I feel like it's not toxic to critique them. It's toxic to say it's toxic to critique them. That's where the real toxicity is hidden. It's camouflaged. And that's really prevalent now. You're not allowed to say game bad. You're the bad guy. And if you keep talking, you're still the bad guy. We love the games. We want to see them do well. Hell, while we were talking about it, you know what you could have done to explain Locke's helmet? He lost it. His suit got destroyed in a battle. But then there could have been a mission with a brief overview, and then all of a sudden you could be a night mission. You could be going through a battlefield, and there is a blisterback flying above you. I mean, there's so many things you could have done to incorporate things from Halo Wars 2 and connect the games, which people would have loved, let's be real. And the blisterback lands in front of you. And you're using Swords of San Helios combined with UNSC technology, you're camouflaged, and then all of a sudden you hear a very faint pop, and a Jiralhanae falls in front of you. And in the calm, you hear Locke's voice saying, "I've got my eyes on you, Chief." And then you realize Locke's alive, even though you saw his helmet on the shoulder pauldron of a brute. Would have been great. He's fucked up. Maybe he's got an eye missing. Something. His helmet's off, right? That would have been great. I know that maybe that sounds cheesy, but and he doesn't have his Spartan armor anymore. That'd be a great twist. He has to fight without his armor now because it got destroyed by a Jiralhanae ambush. I don't know. There were so many things I didn't hope for, but I was like, could have been done, and it just, so.
Oh, it would have been if they didn't have the philosophy of every game being ditch everything that we just did,
Refresh.
We would have had that explanation. The Halo 5, whether you like it or not, ended with all of them on St. Helios.
Yeah.
And that
see you on St. Helios.
Yeah, that would have been way more interesting to build off of than what we got. You could have still ended up on a Halo ring, but like at least carry forward stuff, because it's so disjointed, you know. And and whether like they are rebranding, this is a new era. They said it in their blog post that we had the Bungie era, the 343 era, or chapter. They call them chapters, and now we're starting a new chapter, right? Which I want to look at that positively, you know, but that still means that they're never going to follow up Infinite, you know. So anything they do is going to have the same problem. Hopefully, stuff after that they do within this new chapter doesn't do the same thing. But yeah,
who's going to read?
Very frustrating.
Who's going to read book 7 in a series if books 6 and maybe 5 weren't great? People aren't going to stay with it, so they can call it new. I don't know. I'm not shitting on.
I think that's why, like I said, why maybe they should just do spin-offs for a while. Maybe just not do any mainline games. Do a remake of CE. Do some spin-offs. Maybe do a sequel to ODST or something. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. But if you stay away from mainline Halo titles for a bit, you can. I don't know. The stale taste in your mouth will not be as bad if they wait more than 3 years, like 3 more years to do another mainline. I really think like I'm not interested in a mainline title. I'm literally, I could care less if they do one.
Rather have an ODST too.
Yeah, I want to see stories that are not Spartans. Anything.
Right.
ODSTs, Marines, a Covenant game. I don't care. Just do
Spartans
anything.
have gotten stale, and they shouldn't be, but they do feel stale. And I mean, you could literally, there's 2 ways you could go about it, although one of them I'm not a big fan of, but at the very least, to like kind of dip their toes in the water with a new concept for Halo, they could take inspiration from Battlefield's war stories, where one war story is from the perspective of a Covenant Remnant member who is a part of the surviving zealotry from the Human Covenant War, under the command and orders of Julim Dama to assassinate UNSC leadership, or Swords of Sanhelios leadership, and it's a stealth mission. Or another one could be the surviving sergeant on the other side of the Halo ring from Combat Evolved storyline that Chief found surrounded by Flood. His story.
Budo?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, and it doesn't have to be a AAA priced game. It can just be a sample, but people would love it. I think people would really fucking like it. I think they would love it. And so there you go. There's your sampling spinoffs to see if spinoffs work. And if that works, go with full spinoffs then. I really do think people would play something similar to ODST again, especially with the tech we have now. Speaking with game development tech, of course. You could have another mission as a insurrectionist member who has, you know, I don't know. There's just so many things you could do. And I don't know why we don't do it. Like,
Halo's really special. Like, there's a lot of unique aspects to it that people love. I think that the fact that some of these things have not been explored is sad. I don't know. Like, if a lot of people, they're super focused on like Halo's identity, boiling down to like mainly art direction.
Right.
And then of course some of them are merge that with like gameplay, of course. But I have my preferences art direction wise. But I'm not so polarized that I'm opposed to seeing some new things. I really think they need to go back to what captivated people at the beginning, and build off of it. And maybe forge a new path from that, but not something that is so disjointed and lacking of like cohesiveness with the original stuff that 343 ended up doing. And I'm not going to say that I hate everything that they did, but it is definitely not consistent. So
yeah. Can you guys believe that this trailer came out in 2018?
No.
Remember how excited we were those years ago, gentlemen?
Yep.
So cool.
It does look good. This worked on me before. It does not work on me again. So I am. Listen, we were all very defensive about. I feel like I wouldn't say defensive, but we tried to keep an open mind about 343 when people were very like, they're not showing anything. What's going on? You know, you need to build faith in your community, and we were all like, just wait. It seems like they're going in the right direction. Give them a chance. And, you know, I don't want to go through that whole process again.
No.
So until we get something more concrete, people ask me, Halo's not back. I'm waiting to see what ends up happening.
Yeah, stop saying Halo is so back. I mean, I get maybe people are doing it as a clickbait, but it's a lie. It's hype. It's hype bait. Clickbait is one thing, and I get it. We do. Believe me. But hype bait is another thing, and you're just hype. Like, I'm personally, I'm sick of paying money to be disappointed.
Well, and a lot of the YouTubers that are doing this are just going to go back to shitting on the game in 2 weeks anyway. They've spent the last year shitting on the game.
Right.
And it's been really funny to see disingenuous Halo community influencers who made their entire career off of like Halo leaks and like, oh, this game is such garbage right now, 343 has ruined the game, yada yada yada, to turn around and be like, Halo's back. And you just know within a month they're going to be turning around and being like, 343 is the franchise doomed? Like, what's going on? It's like,
content drought.
I don't believe anything.
Content drought, and like, it's like, honestly, flick the Cheeto dust off of your belly, and realize that there's more to it than that. If they cared about the damn games, they would give some actual constructive criticism. I spend too much time at my actual adult job. I spend too much time at my actual adult job. Yes, I'm going to pull that flex. At my actual adult job to sit and worry about such menial, stupid shit like that. And they're not even loyal to the games that they say that they follow that have made them thousands and thousands of followers. And, you know, that's really why it's hard for me to make content about Halo unless it's with you guys, because then I know that it's with people that, though you share a lot of my insights on it and stuff, I also learn stuff from you guys as well. And it's like, I want to see it do well, but it's not going to do well if we just keep forming an echo chamber where we just keep agreeing and hyping things up and keep getting disappointed whilst also paying for that disappointment. You need to be honest.
It is important. Yeah, I think it is important that people have other things going on in their lives, frankly. Yeah. Like, I love games. I love movies. And if I wanted to and didn't have anything else going on, I could see, with the right circumstances, just becoming incredibly annoying about all this, and complaining about things that don't matter, frankly.
It's exhausting.
So
it is just exhausting, and it's like, I know I've had people say, I can't believe you're like, you know, leaving years ago when I actually was doing Halo content on the regular, and it gained me hundreds of subscribers. Like, in 1 year I gained well over 1,500 subscribers just from doing Halo stuff. Halo Wars 2. The first thing I ever did was a reaction to Halo Wars 2, and it was really well received, and I love that game to this day. Story was great. I loved it. I still love it. But like Vin said, it was just dropped, and it's like, it's not working. It hasn't worked for years. they need to change the subject matter. You can be loyal to its legacy while also letting it mature. It's not going to mature if you keep making it get reborn.
Yeah. I think to give one of my intended closing thoughts about the tech demo stuff.
Yeah, because
I think they need to. They need to. The Combat Evolved remake that they're inevitably doing can be really good, and I'll be super happy about that. But what I want to see is other developers and other studios taking a shot at making Halo games. I want to see Halo studios themselves focused on telling stories in the universe that feel unique and feel original. And if the way they do that is doing them all in the same engine and reusing assets, then that's great. My favorite games is ODST. I'm totally fine with them reusing assets if you're making a game that's fun and innovative.
Right.
So for me, what I would like to see to have more faith in this franchise is show me that you have teams working on ideas that are innovative and exciting. Show me that you're doing stories about the Swords of St. Helios and Elites, and show me pockets of the universe that we haven't seen depicted in like a visual medium. Take stuff from the books. I love the books, you know?
Right.
That's what I want. I don't want another big Halo game. I want Halo games that feel fun. I want Halo games that do new things. So.
Yeah.
It's definitely becoming obvious to me as I'm just more focused on the niches of Halo that I enjoy, but not privately usually, at least within my friend group.
Right.
That the thing that annoys me about Halo most is, I think, just the fans that are zealots, essentially, about the specific thing that they like. And I'm talking about any opinion. I'm talking about Bungie purists or 343 era fans. Doesn't matter to me who you are. They all, the people I'm talking about in particular, they behave the same on both sides. And that drives me insane. It's like trying to be a part of a community. And definitely one of the biggest reasons why myself, and I'm sure you two, have stepped away, and the only people we interact with are people that we have actually formed friendships with, that will not get bothered by an opinion, and we don't get bothered by their specific niche that they enjoy about Halo.
Right. Because it's okay to have different opinions. It doesn't mean you have to be enemies. It shouldn't feel like politics. Gross.
And that's the problem.
It's supposed
it
to be
feels
our
like
escape. It does feel like
it
politics.
feels like it, and it is insufferable talking to people who cannot talk about Halo like anything else.
Right, or you can't.
And if you, sorry, I didn't mean to.
No,
there.
Keep going. You're fine.
And if you talk about the niche that you enjoy and it aligns with them, it will often assume that you want to engage in that kind of talk.
Yeah.
And it just drives me nuts. I can't do it.
I almost wonder if, I'm not blaming anyone in development, anything like that. It's just, I wonder if a part of the reason for that symptom in the Halo community with like you say, both sides or a few different weird sides, I'm wondering if this community has, because I stepped away from it years ago.
Yeah.
Was promised, I'll just say it, but I won't mention, I was promised collaborations. I was promised that I would be enacted with. I was built up by people that were relevant in the community and then forgotten about. Because I had a job. I was busy. I couldn't get back to people right away. And I'm like, I ain't gonna do that. But it was still disheartening because I had my opinions. And I wouldn't say that I was a Bungie purist, but it's definitely a golden nugget of a memory for me. Just because I was younger,
I criticize that, and I'm a CE purist if you want to be realistic.
Yeah, I'm a big Halo 2. Halo 2 is my jam. It's my favorite of all the games, honestly, and I still think it has one of the best stories, but that's just me. I just this right here that we're seeing on screen now, this segment and his character with Chief, that was great, and then that just kind of fizzled. You could tell where they didn't have time to put more into that and to develop it further, and you could just tell when the story turned into a Assassin's Creed game where you're just running around the map collecting all the sea shanties and shit like that. But even at least that was like rewarding. So in this case, it was like you got a dossier on enemies and you hunted them down, and it was just disappointing. So yeah, my closing thought is it's okay to critique, but it's been made for, you know, the community in general, like that it's not okay to critique, and people are actually afraid to critique now because, you know, cyberbullying is a real thing and it happens, but I wouldn't deal with it. It just came to terms with, like, I was like, no, you know what? This isn't rewarding anymore. It was fun for a while. I'm going to go play the niches that I like. And if Halo decides to not have a 7th or an 8th Identity Crisis, I will be more than happy to cover it heavily and maybe actually talk about some lore. But it feels too hateful. If I was an artist like you guys, I think I would maybe be more involved, but I'm not. I'm just a amateur personality, and
I mean,
who's always liked the games.
Ben and I have severely, like, we don't interact in the wider art community, largely because it's like on any given day people don't know how to conduct themselves. So
I think that part of that is all the refreshes. I think that caused a lot of it too. There's so many different identities of Halo that's where all the different subcultures came from, when they all could have been part of the same one. So I don't know, but that's kind of my closing notes on it. If you guys got any last thoughts, by all means. Vin's hungry. That's how long we've been talking. Sorry, Vin. We went over, but it's fine because these are fun and I like making them with you guys. But
you got to draw attention to that, Euclid.
My final thought: don't mess up the CE remake.
Right.
Don't do it. You already did it once. Don't mess it up again.
Oh, you mean Halo Reach 2?
Yeah, Halo Reach 2. Exactly.
I can't believe that's their commitment as Halo Studios. Their first project is going to be Halo Reach 2. That's so nuts. I love it.
Well, that's it from me. You guys have anything? I mean, that's pretty much your closing thoughts, I would imagine. Let's make it a wrap.
I don't have anything else. So.
Yeah.
My closing thought is stop turning Master Chief into a woman. He looks like a woman in the new trailer, and that upsets me. The woke DEI Halo Studios is ruining Halo. Please stop.
How could
Please,
they?
I beg you.
He's just too feminine in his blocky armor. Just
and my woke DEI wife left me.
Oh no. What are we gonna do?
It's the dumbest.
If this kind of stuff makes you upset, and we're joking, we're pretty relatively progressive cats. If you didn't catch that, don't know why you've been here this long. But if you did watch to the end, we really appreciate you guys. If you could leave a like, it'd really help us out. And feel free to subscribe if you want to see more bias, because we're definitely going to be covering more stuff like this. And we will be covering some news about a very beloved horror game very soon. And we'll see you guys in that video as well. So I am Euclid. This is my buddies Vin and Josh. And we will catch you all in the next video.
Bye.